Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Brahmanandam Paramsukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyaadi Lakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunaraktam Sadgurum Tam Namami Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasishtha, Utpatti Prakarana, section 7. Sage Vasishtha gives a general insight into what his teachings are going to present to Rama. In simple terms, the essence of Yoga Vasishtha is being brought to you in a very condensed form. That's what you will be hearing in more detail. As long as Dishya Jagat, the world you are experiencing in three stages, three planes, three lokas. The experience of the world through your senses and through your mind. That's practical reality. It's a Sanskrit term for that, bhu loka. And world you are experiencing through your feelings. And that world has a totally different dimension. How you are situated in the physical world, that has nothing to do with your feeling, the world of your feeling. That's called Bhuvar Loka. And experience that one gets by mental clarity and clarity of understanding, understanding-based experience at the plane of your intellect. That's much more in another dimension. And the soul continues to experience, individual soul, continues to have all the blend of these three lokas. All the time, actually. Partly you are feeling how you are seated, the feel of the couch and seat, feel of the body. Partly you are aware, you have expectations, feelings, how you feel about looking at all the deities and all that. And partly your mind is looking for understanding things that will give you a different dimension to your life. All this is blended. Though there are times when one of the three will be more predominant, but all the three are always there. Sometimes one is led by feeling aspect. So what feels good, that's what you go after. You ignore Bhurloka, Swarloka. And likewise, sometimes you go only after Bhurloka. A good shop, in good position. I'm joking. So you don't care what's about feeling and all those things. Understand. But no matter how you act, all the three are blending. You cannot completely be deprived of your understanding. So your understanding can become misunderstanding or twisted understanding. Your feeling can become gripped by moha, deluded feeling. And practical reality also may give you different types of a certain setting in a physical way you don't like it. No two persons like any particular, say, one room has been presented to you. Different people, any person that coming to will arrange the room in his own way, in his or her own way. And it will not be exactly the same. Led by karma, the soul continues to experience the three lokas. From a broad point of view, this state is a loco state. Localized. The word localized comes from loci. But what goal is being presented by Yoga Vasishtha? That all these three lokas are layers of illusion. And as long as one does not have that full understanding that all this is unreal, there will not be liberation. If there is no liberation, you are always looking for permanent and fulfilling setting in the realm of lokas, which is an impossible job. Because nothing in this plane of lokas, realm of lokas, is permanent. Nothing is permanent. It's constantly changing. Change occurs day by day, moment after moment. Therefore, in philosophical terminology called Kshanabhangur, it changes every moment. As long as that state of understanding has not come, where you come to realize the world does not exist. That's what we are, again, introducing you to those terminologies. Bhava pratyaya, pratyaya bhava. As long as the world is being experienced, it is experience based upon mental projection. So, in other words, mental projection exists. As long as projection exists, you are not enlightened. As long as cinema show is going on, you can't find any secure spot that can simply become immersed in bliss. Cinema show is always moving. It's not going to be eternal. No matter what you attain in life, it's not going to be eternal. It's transient. So therefore, if one has developed subtle sensitivity, then comes the question, what should we do about this? That's what Rama's question is. How can this big world that is superimposed on Brahman, how can this big world be eliminated in order to realize Brahman? Seems like a big problem. But in daily life, how do you kick all these three worlds and go to sleep? When you go to sleep, there's a little rehearsal of going beyond the three lokas. A little rehearsal is not real, but sufficient for you to understand. You are not aware of practical reality when you are in deep sleep. You don't even know your own bed, whether some mosquitoes are crawling over it or not. You don't care. And they crawl over your nose also. So, physical world is not there. The world of your feeling. You have been waiting for friends and dear relatives who have come from a far distance, and hardly you have talked to them, you go to sleep. When you are in sleep, the feeling that was fluttering because of so many near and dear ones, what happens to that feeling? The feeling world completely moves away. Likewise, your world of understanding, evaluating, that also moves away. The experience of time, space moves away. Your ego, which is very loved by everyone, deceives you, turns away from you. And miracle of miracles, you don't miss anything. As long as all this does not happen, all this doesn't move away, you can't sleep. Sound sleep will not be possible. Allow the same understanding come to another level. As long as these three planes are not completely eliminated by, just like darkness is eliminated by light. As long as all these three are not understood to be layers of illusion, you cannot have realization of Brahma. Nirvana, moksha, attainment of immortality, that's the goal of life. And when you attain it, there will not be the cycle of birth and death. If you don't attain it, not just one cycle of birth and death, but cycle after cycle. As a result of listening, reflection, listening to the teachings as are being presented by Yoga Vasishtha, and reflecting upon the teachings, as a result of that, your intellect undergoes a mystic change. Instead of being intellectual, you become intuitively insightful. And that is not ordinary intellect. And that difference one has to understand well. Just being intellectual is to collect lots of data and surprise people by your knowledge. You studied some astronomy and surprise you. Do you know that particular star? It has come in 1,000 years for the first time. And when it goes away again, it will take another 1,000 years to come. So bless your eyes. I'm joking. That's the way things are. The intellectual world is vast, intuitive. But this intellectual world has a practical value. If you allow that to help you in your self-effort to integrate, practice integral yoga, then it's perfectly good. Nothing is wrong about being practical. But if you develop that illusion, that simply because you have lots of knowledge, and much more knowledge is waiting for you from the Google. If you develop that idea, then you are buddhus, you are simpleton. Coming to intuitive intellect, as you begin to purify yourself, and as you listen and begins to ring within your mind, this world is not real. What is the reality? Ego in me is not me. Ego is a monkey sitting on my neck with raga, dvesha entwined in the neck constantly. Raga is attachment, hatred, like, dislike. And that ego is not me. As you listen and as that understanding fills your intellect becomes more and more intuitive. And your understanding gives a tremendous clarity to your personality. It becomes a source of inspiration. The climax of that movement is liberation. But once you have entered into that process of discovering and enjoying the role of intuitive intellect, and that becomes your goal. That's called jnana. As you become involved in attaining jnana, even when you are not completely at the height, at the climax, still you are sure to attain the goal. Once you have come to that level, that you are sure to attain the goal, there is no slipping back. That's described as liberation, which has two stages. Jivan Mukti, liberation that has come within your life. And what does it imply? The world that is unreal still continues to be experienced by one who is enlightened. But one big difference, and simple way to explain, suppose you are having a wonderful dream or a difficult dream, whichever way. You are in dream and your mind is quite distracted by so many things that you have to secure and go after in your dream world. But there comes a stage, an intuitive insight trickles down in your mind, and you realize, you develop that awareness, this is a dream. Once that develops within you, now even in the practical dream world, if you have been experiencing, suppose you were on a certain high level and you fell down and your leg is broken, and you're experiencing pain. When that insight develops, it is a dream. Internally, you become extremely relaxed. But in the practice, the world of your dream, still you are looking at your leg that is broken, and if you have an ointment or any practical things to be done, you don't have to stop. Let the dream world flow. But no matter whichever way the dream world may flow, in a deeper level, you are not going to be affected in any way. If you could figure that out, that's the definition of enlightenment. And what will happen ultimately? The question, how long will he be like that? Question doesn't arise. Once you understood the dream is a dream, is the illusion. Illusion means it is not there. Your mind becomes the basis for holding on to the illusion of duality or multiplicity. as well as negating the illusion of multiplicity. Holding on to it or negating it. Both is based upon your own mind. Mind that is highly purified and led by spiritual teaching. That mind promotes Brahmakara Vritti, a thought movement that recognizes all is Brahman. At that point I have explained to you, suppose you are seated by the ocean, you have two choices. Go after every wave and ask every wave of its story. Weep with some of them, laugh at some of them. Or understand all the waves are one ocean. So allow your mind to understand these waves are not going to do anything tragic. Ocean is unaffected. And that ocean alone is. You are in reality pure consciousness. That consciousness is not going to be affected. The world before you will shake and shimmer. The very body that you hold will not exist. All your attainments, they don't even become pages in history. That's the mystery. But the awareness in itself, that never goes away. That's Brahman, the Absolute. Put it another way, all the awareness of objects and the world are like reflections. Look at a lake, so many things reflect. The stories of reflections are immense, but they don't exist. Lake is the reality. The story of the world is immense, past, present, future. So many stars, so many world systems. This world system is just a little brain. That's endless. But these are all reflections. Brahman is the reality. And that's what the purpose of this scripture is. Should you be led by your mind, looking for permanency, immortality-like state in a world that is transient? Should you go on looking for security in a world of reflections? Or realize the reality that is ever-present, eternal, Satchidananda. As long as your mind is accustomed to Dvaita Pratibimb, mind that is constantly reflecting the world of three types, I have explained, Bhur type, physical, sentimental, rational. As long as your mind is doing all that, you are dealing with reflections. And as long as that's the situation, you are in a state of bondage. Led by spiritual teachings and reflection, mind gains a certain purity. And now the mind begins to reflect Advaita instead of Dvaita. Instead of the world of multiplicity, instead of layers of illusion, the mind begins to move away from layers of illusion and reflects the reality. When that happens, that's called attaining wisdom, jnana, tattva jnana. In a very simple way to understand, you watch a cinema show. If you are deeply immersed in the story. You are shaken by every little thing that happens. It's a tragic story of a vampire going on killing everyone. And see a baby being killed by the vampire, your whole body shakes. Instead, you come to another level. Look at the same, that this is not real. These projections are creating the show. And projections have been put together by the director of the show. And so even though you are watching and seeing the same thing, you are not shaking. Rather, you are amused. How look at those teeth have come out. And how the blood comes out, tomato juice and things of that nature. All these are allegorical way to understand the same show, and you go on changing your understanding and watch it in a totally detached way. And ultimately, the show has no reality. Screen alone exists. The screen-like consciousness alone exists. That's the purpose of scriptures. And that's what we call Aham Brahmasmi. I am not the body, not the mind, not the intellect, not the ego. I am Brahman. Sri Rama asked, O sage, this vast universe, how can all this be projected on Brahman? And Brahman is subtle. How can this gross world be imposed on something so subtle? How can a Meru mountain be pushed into a little mustard seed? That's the problem. Mind has to handle. Vasishtha says, O Rama, listen to my teachings. In a few days of my teachings, if you listen with a attentive mind, the Sanskrit word is anudvigna chit. Udvigna chit, mind that is constantly excited about. Why don't you tell me quickly what liberation is? And so forth. But with profound patience, without that agitation in your mind, without being agitated, udvigna, if you were to listen, two things you have to be involved in, satsanga and satshastra. Satsanga, that's like what we are having now, you are listening to the teachings. Shastra, take up any particular portion of what you have heard or any portion of scripture and go over it again and again. You can take it literally, or what you have listened to. Try to study, try to assimilate it, reflect upon it. Animals like cows, when they eat up lots of things, they sit down and chew the cud. Similarly, as parents listen to so many things, but now the time for chewing the cud. Digest it. Because Shastra Abhyas. And also remember, Shastra refers to threefold control. Shasaktraya, controlling the thoughts. How to control your thoughts instead of going wildly, uncontrolled manner and bringing in unnecessarily all lots of negative things. How to think positively. That one aspect of scripture. manasa, vacha. Another aspect, how express yourself. Expressing yourself through your speech. Speech is only one aspect, and very important aspect. How to control your speech. And that implies many things. Same words you speak that go on creating lots of tension and agitation. The same words you speak, sages speak, and they work like flowers, bringing inspiration to people for a long, long time, unending time. But I'm not talking about that unending process. How to control your speech so that through your words you are inspiring yourself and your action. How to discipline your action. If these threefold disciplines, the basis of all that is called scripture, Shastra. If in simple terms, study, have satsanga, study scripture, and bring it in your daily life. If you become involved in this process, then, led by my teaching, you will attain enlightenment in a very short time. How short? There is no limit to that shortness. It can be within a week, it can be within a day, it can be within 6 months, whichever way. It all depends upon your clarity of your understanding. You're not dependent upon time. It's like you will see a mango ripen, it ripens in time. But the wisdom does not wait, is not going to ripen. It's already there. A veil of illusion has to move away. How long will it take to remove the veil? That depends upon your role, your sadhana. As long as there is a reality of the world, to put it in a more simpler way, as long as there is triad, seer, seen, and sight. Seer is called drashta. Seer, you are the experience. The world is called drishya. Drishya is what you see, the whole field of knowledge. And you're experiencing the world is called darshan. This is not Ishwar darshan, this is experience in daily life. Whatever you are experiencing, as long as you have not grasped the unreality of the drishya, all that you see in the world, the field of, in other words, as long as you have not grasped the unreality of the world, there is no liberation. Even the words we use, duality and non-duality, is not to be taken literally. When we say non-duality, if you take it literally, it means that duality is there and you have to somehow cut down duality to become non-dual. You are giving value to duality by defining the goal as a non-duality. But this is just to help the mind. It is not to be taken as a profound reality. That one question of non-duality doesn't arise. Brahman alone exists beyond the concepts of duality and non-duality. This big world that you experience, it never existed. Shocking news. It will never go, it's not going to exist. And what about now? It is not there. To understand this, again, turn your mind to dream. While dreaming, suddenly suppose some wise message comes to you. This world you are seeing, it never existed. It is not going to be. Even while you are experiencing it, your bed bugs are there, but even this dream is not there. So it's not there in the 3 periods of time. How to allow the mind to grasp, come to that level. All that art, without keeping you in suspense, the art lies in developing integral yoga. Start doing your karmas, actions, not with complete focus that you will get so much success, you will be happy forever. Success is your goal. But don't get that idea that this is all you live for. Understand that any achievement you make becomes easier, more tactful if you bring a sense of spirituality, that your actions are meant to invoke God. You are worshipping God through your actions. And therefore, you are not fulfilled just by the fruit of karma. Your greater fulfillment is becoming closer to God. Closer to God, you are moving towards enlightenment. Closer to your fulfillment, you are duping yourself. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata, yattu nasti swabhavena, ka klesha tasya marjane. That which doesn't exist, that which was never before and will never be, and is non-existent. What difficulty do you have in negating that? Remove the bala, gross impurity, from the mirror of your mind. The entire world experience is a kind of impurity. Some little fog has settled on the mirror, and it is giving you amazing pictures. All that you have to do, let this be wiped away. Potan. This world never existed. That never exists. It is imagined in the divine self, which is absolutely pure. And this point is repeated again. This Jagat, Jagat is another Sanskrit name for the world. Jagat means everything that flows on, moves on. That world was never created, never exists. Just like when you look at the ornaments, golden ornaments, and you have so many sentimental values of those ornaments, how a particular necklace has come down from your great grandmother, grandfather, and how it has traveled, and how many necks have been cut down because of that chain by the thieves and robbers. But behind all this story of the necklace, what's the reality? It's gold. Gold has not changed. Gold is the reality, but all the imagination about the necklace and all the stories that your mind has superimposed upon it, that's illusion. O Rama, by presenting rationality, logic, as well as by presenting to you various parables and stories. I will enable you to understand that which seems difficult will become very easy. That which never existed, how can that be your big problem? Like mirage in a desert. Once you know it is mirage, you will not go after it to drink water from it. And also you will learn from the deer. We've seen dead deer close by because they have been running after mirage and they couldn't satisfy their thirst. Just as mirage never existed, and yet it becomes a problem. The chapters end with the statement, Yadidam drishyate Rama, tad brahmaiva niramayam. O Rama, whatsoever you are seeing, seeing means whatever you are experiencing, is nothing but Brahman, absolute Brahman, taintless Brahman. This is what I'm going to elaborate through my teachings. In 8th section, Sri Rama asks, O sage, how is it possible? All this is being experienced. The world you are experiencing, from morning till evening, so many things. And this whole setting of satsang and all that we are experiencing. How can one were to develop that understanding, that enlightenment, that realization? But all this never existed. Vasishtha says, your mind has created this illusion through persistent, long period of practice. This world is nothing but lack of inquiry. Allow the mind to flow towards light instead of flowing towards darkness, keeping things built up in your mind without reality, without the basis of real insight into them. Deluded impressions, instead of keeping deluded impressions filling your unconscious and your life being dictated by that delusion. Instead of that, start clearing up the delusion. Let light come in. As you go on listening to Yoga Vasishtha, this will happen automatically. It is as sure as the pronunciation of curse or boon coming from a great source, from Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, sages, Durvasa, and so forth. When they say something curse or boon, it cannot be, it's infallible, it will never fail. Similarly, if you go through the teachings with patience, it is going to impact upon your inner understanding, whether you like it or not. Of course, if you like it, then it goes easy. But if you don't like to hear it, then you will stay like a pashu, animal gripped with pashas. Again reminding you of the 8 fetters. Grina. The mind goes through hatred, contempt. Then it goes through a sense of deluded modesty, lajja. Then it goes fear, constant fear. and constant doubting, constant gossiping against others, finding support from lineage. Who was my great-great-great-grandfather? To what family do I belong to? And then evolving a kind of style of life called Sheel, and coming down to developing a class. I belong to a particular class in society, Jati. I'm a Brahmin, I'm a Kshatriya, I'm a goldsmith, I'm a businessman, I'm a politician, I'm this or that. All this keeps your mind so engrossed that if you were to go on listening with that mind gripped by the 8 pashas, then you won't get anything. Then what's the remedy? Do Shastanga Pradha. The Hindu culture has evolved to be sure that you don't stay in satsanga deprived of the benefit of satsanga. You shed that, create a gesture that you are going to shed these 8 fetters. And when people lie prostrate, the 8 limbs of the body touch the ground. It's Hindu culture. I'm not saying that everybody has to literally follow it, but to understand why do they do those things. And I will be concluding today. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.